Hello. I'm Todd Black, the host of Comically Accurate, and welcome to our second ever episode. And joining me today, of course, is the It Guy, Dave Norbot.
Hello, people. You want to push my button?
Yeah, wait for it. We gotta wait for the lower third, Dave. We must wait for your lower third, Dave. It's gonna show up. I swear, it's gonna show up. And there it is. Oh my God!
It'll show up when I push the
We're
button.
getting some. Is just some, Dave? Just some? I mean, I would go bolder. I would go most life decisions, especially in the year 2026. But that's a podcast story for another time. Welcome again to Comically Accurate, where we talk about all things comic books, past, present, and potentially future. So last week we did our origin stories episode where we let you, the audience, know a little bit more about me and Dave. But today, we're going to start off with the first of hopefully many epic comic debates, which is, of course, DC versus Marvel. The ultimate nerd debate. Wait, did I just say nerd debate? Nerd!
I'm going to regret putting those buttons in.
Oh, yeah. There's more to come. There are so many more to come. But yes, we will indeed be talking about Marvel versus DC because there is so much to talk about. And thus we have structured this episode not just by saying like, oh, what's better, DC or Marvel? We're talking about every aspect of the two companies to debate between the two of us who has done better both past and present and potentially in the future. And so what better place to start than with the comics, you know, where it all started? So, Dave.
Yes.
Currently, who do you think is on top, DC or Marvel?
I would have to go with DC with the absolute line.
I totally agree. See, when it comes to comics, and we'll talk about this again in the recap, but it's very much a game of phases because you can look throughout comic history and see where things were better for one and then better for the other. There's very much ebbs and flows of who's winning and who's not. And definitely right now with the absolute line, DC is crushing Marvel. Mm-hmm. It's not even close. It was close when it was the absolute line versus the ultimate line. Remember,
right.
Ultimate came first. But then they're like, hey, let's just end the ultimate line. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I think they had a specific storyline in mind for the ultimate line, and they just,
ended it. Yeah, it was Jonathan Hickman's baby.
Right.
And that guy, to his credit, I have met him. He is very much a guy of plans. Now, whether his plans come to fruition, as we saw with Krakoa, is debatable. But
right.
with this one, they clearly wanted to follow the plan. But the problem is that they should have, even if they said, like, okay, this is the end of Hickman's story, start a new one.
Well, didn't Hickman do that with the ultimate line? Because
I don't remember, actually.
The previous ultimate line, which was
Michael Bendis.
Michael Bendis.
That's where we got Miles Morales.
Yes. That ended with the culmination of Secret Wars.
Right.
And then Jonathan Hickman redid it or rebooted it.
Yeah, he rebooted it. Okay, sorry. For those who don't know, for the casual fans, the casual nerds out there. In the 2000s, there was a lot of big changes in Marvel. And one of the things that they decided to do after their own internal struggle reboot, that's another podcast story, is that they said, hey, let's continue the mainline universe, but let's make a new universe where we can start things over from scratch. And so Brian Michael Bendis, who was one of the dominant comic writers at the time, said, okay, I'm going to make the ultimate universe. And basically, to oversimplify things, he redid certain origin stories. He made a lot of characters younger, like Spider-Man, most of the X-Men, Johnny Storm, Fantastic Four, so that they were like the same age group. And then he retooled certain personalities and such so that there was a lot of fresh ground to go off of. And that's where we got Miles Morales, because they killed Peter Parker, spoilers. And then Miles was born. It was a huge hit. Ultimates ran for a long time. Now, it had some big ups and downs. See Ultimatum. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We're not getting to that can of worms. But eventually it did end in Secret Wars, where the universes merged together, which is why Miles is now with Peter in the main universe. but it was still super successful. And then with their new Ultimate Verse, which was again done by Jonathan Hickman, they did a complete reboot, did things entirely different, new origin stories, new versions of the characters, and fans loved it. And not the least of which was, wait for it, Dave. I'm looking for the button. Dave has changed these on these episode to episode. They let Peter Parker be married.
Yes.
They let Peter Parker be married. They let Peter Parker be married to MJ, and they had 2 kids. One of them became Spider-Man, a different Spider-Man.
Right.
And it was like, this is amazing. It was totally fun.
And it was one of the most successful lines in Marvel.
In comics.
Mm-hmm.
In comics, period. And there's just like, and that's why fans were attached to it, because this was fresh. It was fun. Wolverine was the Winter Soldier. And the X-Men were, okay, the X-Men comic was weird, but it was emphatically different, and people were into that because it was different. It was a unique story with unique visuals and everything. And then they just ended it. They're like, oh yeah, Ultimate Endgame, here you go. So that was a thing. And then around the same time, it was a little bit later, but DC decided, hey, we need to do a similar thing. So they went to the one and only Scott Snyder, among others, of course. And they said, hey, we need you to come up with a new universe for you to have fun. And that was the Absolute line. Long story short, Darkseid, you remember him, right? The key guy in the Snyder Cut. I think he's Zack Snyder. But he basically merged himself with the universe, canon, and created one where he was the focal point, or he was the epicenter of everything. And thus, a lot of bad crap happened in that universe. But there were still heroes. And that's what the Absolute line is, seeing very different versions of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Green Arrow just came out, Catwoman just came out, and seeing how they are adapting to this much darker, grittier, as weird as it might sound, universe. And this one succeeds, Dave, because it just feels so fresh.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The thing I didn't like about DC way back when is that they rebooted their universe too many times.
Yeah.
With Flashpoint and Infinite Crisis Earth and the New 52 and all that.
Yeah.
I felt they strayed from the core of their characters. But with the Absolute line, the core is still there. They're just darker, grittier characters.
And with new potential.
Yes.
Yeah. For example, and I won't spoil it for those who haven't read, but not only for this Absolute Batman, if you can't read it, but Absolute Batman, Bruce Wayne is so much different and in ways I will not spoil. And then in another recent episode, there was a key death within the Bat family, what you would call the Bat family. And I'm just like, huh? They did what? and so that makes it to where every issue is special and unique. And for me, I'm absolutely loving Batman because Scott Snyder is an incredible writer. I think my favorite is Absolute Wonder Woman, because this is a new take on the character. She's no longer...
She's an Amazon warrior.
No, she's an Amazon witch. Like, that's the thing. Like, she's an Amazon, but she was raised by Circe on the Wild Isle of Hell, and she was taught magic, and she's got an undead Pegasus as a steed. She has a magical arm, and the lasso is much different than before, but she's still Wonder Woman because she's still the most loving character ever. It's just that she's more broken than ever, but in a way that actually makes sense. And if you read did you read the last issue?
I did not.
Okay, I won't spoil it. But like, they ended the Season of the Witch arc, and it was really good. And I even got to chat with Kelly Thompson, who was the writer of the comic on Blue Sky yesterday, and I praised her for her arc, and she was very honored by what I said. But I was just like, I can't wait to see what happens next, and you could tell she appreciated that. But then even Absolute Superman, like their twist with Krypton and his powers and everything feels fresh. And who he's fighting, this is not a spoiler because it's been out for a while, but like his first villain he fights is Ra's al Ghul.
Right.
It was just like, he's a Batman villain, but now he's a Superman villain. But it makes sense because of how they have Ra's al Ghul. And they're being very careful here to where they're slowly expanding the Absolute verse. Like I said, we just got Green Arrow. They just had their second issue yesterday at the time of this recording. Absolute Catwoman just came out. And there's rumors of who's going to come next. And I'm intrigued because there's so much potential, so many heroes and villains who haven't shown up yet. And I, as a writer myself, as I noted my Secret Origin, I've got ideas for what I would want up here. And not a spoiler because this won't happen now, but I actually made a script and a cover via a friend of mine for Absolute Harley Quinn.
Okay.
But won't work out because she's now in the Batman verse. Small spoiler. So I'm like, what would be my next pitch? And I have a pitch in my head for Absolute Aquaman, and it gets dark.
Does Chris Hemsworth star?
There we go. Here we go. I mean, no, it would not be Chris Hemsworth, and I will hold my spoilers to myself because obviously that would be a dangerous thing to put out there. But I have a fully fleshed out idea that would be very, very fun to do, and like that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of like with the Ultimate line, what we had, and the Absolute line, which we still have, is that you wonder what's next,
Right.
And that's why DC is winning right now. And when we say DC is winning, we're not just talking about like fan sentiment. We're talking about sales, like full on sales. For Green Arrow, okay? Now I want you to think about this because we're going to talk about Arrow later on. But think about Green Arrow as the character. When was he ever the most popular one? Like seriously? You could argue that his peak of fame was during the Justice League cartoon.
Yes.
When he was like one of the focal points for Unlimited. And that was great, but they never translated to comics per se. He had a long, a multi-year run just end not too long ago. And I was really sad because that was a really good comic. But when Absolute Green Arrow came out, it sold in pre-orders about 300,000. That's as much as one of the Batman issues. Green Arrow, because that's the hype around the Absolute verse. Now we could talk about, of course, the past events and everything, and Marvel definitely had an edge for a long time, and the DC with New 52 had an edge because it was a reboot that everyone could access, and then, of course, the great events with Crisis on Infinite Earths, Avengers Disassembled, Secret Wars, and so on and so forth. But if we're talking right now, DC's got that edge because they know that they've got the hottest thing in comics, and we need to talk about Absolute Martian Manhunter, which is a mind-blowing thing, and so much more. And that potential of what's coming next and where things going, they've got it, and they know they're not let that go. Will it eventually fade?
Sure.
Absolutely. But until then, we're going to keep reading it, and we're excited to read it because it's a lot of fun. So first point goes to DC, but it's much more than that. There's more to just the comics, and we'll get to that when we come back.
You break or me break?
Yeah, I know. Welcome back. So we started off this debate talking about which one is leading in the comics right now. But as you all know, not everyone reads comics. That's not an insult. That's just fact. So to many, this debate of DC versus Marvel isn't about, well, who's dominating in the comics right now. It's about who has the best characters, period. So, Dave, who do you think has the best characters between DC and Marvel, and why?
Well, I gotta think about this one.
Take your time.
My favorite character is Spider-Man.
Of course.
I've always related to Spider-Man. And I think on the Marvel side, the characters are more relatable. I think that Captain America, coming from that generation where he's at, or where he came from, is a more relatable personality. Everybody else on the DC side is more on the fantastical side, Superman and Alien and Batman, the rich playboy. But I think the characters themselves, I like the Marvel side better.
So I just want to know, I totally relate to a rich billionaire playboy who lost his parents, inherited wealth, and dresses up as a bat to go defend the city every night. Can't you tell? I can totally relate to that. Most people would agree that Spider-Man is one of, if not the most popular hero out there. The only true rival in that sense is Batman, because I'm Batman. Ooh, that's another clip we need. Here, actually, hold on. There we go. So, personally, character-wise, I like the DC side more because I find that they're more fun, as weird as that sounds. The only exception is the X-Men. I grew up on the X-Men, X-Men 97, X-Men, or 92, 97. And then X-Men Evolution, which is my personal favorite X-Men series. Hate me all you want. And then, of course, the X-Men movies, the original ones, and then the reboot. I'm very curious how things are going to happen with the MCU. But when I think of DC, I think of these larger-than-life characters, but I see all the potential and the fun with them. And especially once the New 52 happened and I got to get in ground level with their rebooted stories, I got to enjoy a lot of them more. Batman is the one I read the most just because I grew up, again, Batman, the animated series, and all the other Batman cartoons. I haven't missed one, that was actually good. They've been they're churning out some slop recently. I'm not going to lie. Like Bat Wheels, really?
Yeah, that's for kids.
I know, but like Batman the animated series was technically for kids.
Technically, but no.
No, but it's like, well, yes, but maybe no. But like that was a kids shows on Cartoon Network, like Kids WB, same as Superman the animated series, but they didn't diminish that's adaptations talk. We gotta say that for later. I have a whole spiel, but it's a word, spiel. But no, the characters Batman again is always a favorite just because he's everywhere for better and for worse. I have a friend named Matt Shore and he despises Batman because he's everywhere and he thinks that the moral core of the character is so bad that writers refuse to portray him how he should be. And so we'll try and get him on a later podcast. It's hilarious that he goes really deep into this. But I love the Bat family. They got so many great characters. Then, Green Lantern I came in on with Blackest Night, so I got to see them like truly their height with the Jeff Johns run, and I've enjoyed them ever since. Absolute Green Lantern's really good with Sojourner Mullen. I can never say her name correctly, sorry. But then Green Arrow and Shazam. Shazam's my favorite character, mainly because of a cartoon appearance. Are we just
going to list all the DC characters?
Oh, I could. No, I could not. But there are just so many that when you look at them, you resonate. And I have no issues with Marvel. Again, I love the X-Men. I currently think the best Marvel comics are the X-Men comics, especially now since the Ultimate line's now done. But there's just with the X-Men, they're fun because you see yourself in them in certain ways, or you look up to them.
And that's how they were created.
Exactly. Like they were meant to be not just relatable, but they were meant to reflect the current social climate. And that still applies to this day in the saddest of ways, if we're being honest with you here. But, when they're written well, both sides have the best characters.
Right.
I mean, one of the reasons people don't like Spider-Man, let me say this clearly, the Spider-Man series recently was because they got rid of the Ultimate line where Peter was mostly happy. But B, they keep doing weird stuff with the main line. Paul, anybody? Yeah.
He's dead now. So.
Oh, he's dead. Thank God. But think about that. Think about how much you have to screw up that when a character dies, they're like, oh, thank God. Like Marvel did that recently.
Have you read any of the DC Marvel crossovers?
I have not. Ironically, I never felt the urge.
Okay.
Because they're one-shots.
One of them was Power Girl.
Oh, and Frank Castle. Gail Simone, shout out. You are amazing. She still talks about that one.
Yeah, but they trashed Paul in that one.
Good. Good. I absolutely. And I heard that he goes on a blind date with Power Girl. I'm like, he's not that lucky.
Yeah, no. He tries to go on a blind date, and she ends up going on a date with Frank Castle.
Good. Yeah, seriously, go to Gail Simone's handle on Blue Sky. She still talks about Power Girl and Frank Castle, and I'm just like, go off. Go. You do. What? And that sounds like such an odd pairing, but the power of Gail Simone compels you. Mm-hmm. All right. And just to keep going with that, when you have the writers like Gail Simone who love the characters and respect them to a certain level, you get these wonderful stories that just transcend what they're doing in other things. Like with her X-Men run. I love her X-Men run. It's one of the best things in comics right now, period. But she does it not because she has overtop action, which she does. Not because she has the zaniest villains ever, which she does. It's because she loves the characters and she brings them out. And, sometimes she has panels where Nightcrawler is wearing nothing but briefs.
Tidy whities.
Yep. And yeah. and they try to make Bamf an innuendo. Canon, he bamfed me 4 times. 4 times. Like that, yeah, go Gale. You awesome. But on the flip side, then you have someone like, say, Matt Fraction, who is legendary comic writer, but he's the current guy on the mainline Batman book, and that one's been selling out like hotcakes because he's got a fun take on the character. One-shot stories basically every time while also doing an overall arc. And it's selling well because it just feels fresh and fun and respects the character in a unique way. And then going back to the Absolute one, you see how they're breathing new life into the character so that it's not stuck. Because that's like the biggest problem in comics is that you have these legendary characters, but for some of them who've been alive for decades, if not a century, they've like all the stories have been told in theory. So you have to do things with them to keep them fresh. And so the character debate keeps getting tricky because you get the ones where they're amazing, and then you get the Pauls, which weigh things down. And then, of course, creators leave, new creators come in. One of my biggest complaints about comics in general is when a run ends and like a certain status quo is established, then the next writer comes in like
and
issue
destroys
1,
it.
completely destroys it. I could do a whole podcast episode on that, and maybe we will. But character-wise, when you see the impact of both Marvel and DC across the wider world, you can't really pick a winner because like it's really subjective about who's better. Because you could say Batman's better because he's had these many successful movies, but Spider-Man is still Spider-Man, and the X-Men are still the X-Men, and so on and so forth. And of course, Avengers is like the dominant movie franchise when they actually release the movies. Oh wait, movies, TV shows? When we come back.
That would be a segue, ladies and gentlemen.
Segue! I'm an expert, professional. And we're back. So, this is arguably the most important topic of this podcast. Which of the brands has the better adaptations? And this is difficult because there have been so many. Yeah. And for every Batman 66, for every MCU highlight, for every Snyder cut, among everything, there have been the ones that have made you wonder why they exist at all. Or to put it another way,
you have failed this city!
Yeah, pretty much. So, let's start off with the positive, Dave. What are your, not to pick a side just yet, what are your favorite adaptations across all mediums? Movies, television, cartoons, video games?
That's a difficult question.
Of course.
So I'm going to ignore video games.
Whatever works for you.
And for TV, I like the Airline. I like the DC animated stuff. Justice League. Young Justice was awesome. But I grew up in the 80s, right? So Spider-Man and his amazing friends and with the crossover and the Avengers and stuff. I like the TV stuff because it was more accessible than paying today's movie prices.
Facts.
But the TV stuff is accessible to everybody, I think. It's a channel that you turn on your TV and there's Young Justice or Spider-Man or whoever with their shows.
I like those picks. Young Justice, I will always have an interesting connection with because I loved when they did DC Nation on Cartoon Network. I used to watch that when I was at college, and then it just like stopped because of something that was completely not Young Justice's fault. Then they bring it back on HBO Max, which was then Max, which is now HBO Max again. Make up your minds. But they brought it back for 2 seasons, and it was season 4. How did it not win Emmys?
Yes.
Like, it was so beautiful. I want to.
It was written by Greg Weisman, who also did Spectacular Spider-Man, which I think is the best adaptation of Spider-Man in an animated form.
And also it ended too soon. That was a great show, great theme song. But if you wanted me to go for my hot take for the day, and there's so many I could do, but I point to Young Justice because of how beautiful it was to me. And I'm going to speak a little bit of lore to this, so I'm going to speak specifically to Dave. Do you remember season 4, the Satara arc?
Yes.
The Giovanni Tara, where he was Dr. Fate, and then they finally get the helmet off of him. And then in the end credit sequence, they have him and Black Canary doing the therapy session. He just breaks down crying. That was an end credit sequence, and they did this incredibly emotional beat. My hot take is that there was more beauty and wonder in that end credit sequence than there was anything in Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie was horrible.
Oh, come on.
It was not. I will not.
It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be goofy.
No, Thor Ragnarok was goofy, and I tolerated much of it because there was a lot of good core elements. Whatever the heck Taika Waititi was going for in Thor: Love and Thunder, he did not succeed. And like you look at the reaction from the fans, from the critics to the box office results, Ragnarok made $1 billion because people actually liked that movie. Thor: Love and Thunder was like, what the heck was that? Yeah. So, but yeah, long live Young Justice. You actually cared about your characters. Even, you know what? You were talking about Chris Hemsworth earlier during the break. Or during the other segment, even he said they went too far in Thor: Love and Thunder, and he could not do another movie like that for his sanity. So, ha!
Okay.
Anyway, but if we're talking just about the animated series, I would say DC has the edge, mainly because they've done more of them and more quality.
I think DC has the edge on the TV side of it.
Yeah, TV and animated series, because they have had more. They have had more successes. And there's more to point out that are iconic. That being said, Marvel, of course, has had some amazing ones. You mentioned Spectacular Spider-Man. I'll put the original 90s Spider-Man, the animated series.
The original 90s, he says.
I know this sounds odd.
I grew up on Spider-Man Amazing Friends,
which I did watch. That was good, too, with Iceman being the voice of Fred Jones.
Yes.
That was trippy. I'm like, why does he sound like Fred Jones?
Because he is Fred Jones.
He was? Yeah. Let's split up, gang. I can't do a Fred voice for whatever reason, but I can do a really good Scooby-Doo. But talking about TV, the Arrowverse, like, oh my gosh, like and you want to tie it back to the comics arc? Everything, most everything, was quality, and then Crisis on Infinite Earths happened.
Yeah.
And then right after that, it all went to hell. And now part of it was the pandemic, because they couldn't do their planned crossovers. There was supposed to be one between Supergirl and Batwoman when Ruby Rose was Kate Kane. But then one thing after another happened after Crisis on Infinite Earths, between budget cuts, what happened to the CW, terrible writing decisions, and even Superman and Lois, which was very, very quality, had an incredibly rushed final season. Even the cast admits it. It's like there's no hiding that. And you go like, what? How did this end on a whimper? I even remember writing a retrospective on it, and like, how did it go out like this? I was hurting when they were just killing the Arrowverse, but when it was at its peak, it's magnificent.
Yes.
And it gave many characters their due in ways that even the movie adaptations would not do. Like I'll put the Supergirl TV series. I would rather watch that again than watch the upcoming Supergirl movie. I just don't think that's going to be that good. And that's not is not a diss on the actress. I have nothing against her. I'm not hyped for the movie. I'm just not. But
the audio board's way over there. I would be muting you right now.
Go ahead. Oh wait, no. Let's say what you really want to say.
You have failed this city.
No, but I like what Melissa Benoist did with the character. She was a great Kara, and giving her the full pant look in season 5. Like, yes, I have always hated Supergirl's look because they're like, hey, let's give her a skirt because she's Supergirl. Like, no, how about we don't? So, but we got to talk about, of course, the movies, because this is where things get really complicated. Because the obvious answer is Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
But if you want to talk about the most iconic ones, you have to go back to Batman.
Batman and the Superman.
Yeah.
The Donner series.
The Donner Superman 1 and 2 are the most iconic Superman movies. And I say that as a Snyder fan. I love Man of Steel, but like those two are iconic. I understand that. Then you've got the original Tim Burton Batman 89, Michael Keaton. That's iconic.
And then you can just pretty much stop after number 2 because Joel Schumacher's was like...
I liked Batman Forever. Like, Jim Carrey as Riddler was great. I'm sorry. I was a kid, and it spoke to me. It was like, you want to talk about being made for kids? That was made for kids. And I still remember so many of the monologues, but we don't have the time for that.
No.
But then, of course, you got the Dark Knight trilogy, which
yes,
were the billion makers.
Except the third one.
Yeah, the third one's tricky.
They dropped the ball on that one.
Well, part of it was because they wanted to bring back Joker, but couldn't. So they had to adapt. I think they did well enough, but it definitely wasn't the quality of Dark Knight, which that's now one of the standalones of the entire movie genre.
But Marvel had during Phase 1 and 2 the plan, right? And they had the roadmap to where they wanted to go in Avengers Endgame, and they knew that each one of these individual stories could be an individual story, but they would follow the path to get to Infinity War and Endgame. Versus DC, who just saw what Marvel was doing and threw movies up there, but there was no cohesive plan to it. It was just...
Oh, yeah. And just to be clear, that was not Zack Snyder's fault. He was asked to do a trilogy. He wanted to do a trilogy, but then the then board at Warner Bros. Was like, hey, let's just throw out a bunch of titles and dates, but with no real... They didn't have scripts. They didn't have plans. Wow, that sounds like James Gunn verse right now. But it's true. Look it up. But they were just like, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this because we have to follow Marvel's plan. And Zack's like, no, I want to do things my way. And that's the way why he left. Also, of course, the death of his daughter, Autumn. But like that wasn't his fault. But absolutely hit them trying to imitate what Marvel did was their downfall from the start, regardless of the quality of the movies. And that bugs me because there was a great story, in my opinion, that Zack was trying to tell in the Justice League arc and beyond. And then we had the surprise hits like Aquaman.
Right.
How did that make $1 billion? But it was good. I saw it 3 times in theaters. I really liked it. Second one, not so much. No. But then they learned wrong lessons from that. Like, hey, let's make a trench movie. What? That was so weird. James Wan was on board. It's like, why? What happened to that? Nothing. But going back to Marvel, they were beyond peak. I was in Chicago for Avengers, the original Avengers, and that place was packed. That pace, the movie theater was like almost sold out. I had to have an awkward seat, but I didn't care because I'm like, I'm watching Avengers on the weekend. Here's my funny story from that. The all-time classic scene of Loki getting pummeled by Thor. The movie theater I was in was so packed that when that scene happened, they were laughing so loud for so long, I could not hear Hulk go, puny God. So I saw him was listening. I was like, what was he saying? And like nobody knew. So I had to ask somebody else at my church, a local church, later on. I'm like, what did he say? He goes, oh, he went puny God. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. But I couldn't, because we were just all reacting to. But. Ready? Wow.
Yeah.
I know. We'll have to continue this. We're not ending this here. But no, like Marvel had the plan. There was a plan. There was a good plan, and I love it when a plan comes together. Yes,
That's
I am
a
that
deep
old.
cut.
Yeah, I'm that old.
But now I think that James Gunn and Peter
Safran.
have a plan.
I disagree entirely. And here's the proof of that because they announced so many things in that initial video, if you recall. Only Superman has happened, and they've already altered their plans multiple times over. Like there was
they can do that, but they have a plan. James Gunn came from the Marvel side with Guardians, which is one of the best movies,
best trilogy in the MCU,
ever.
in my opinion, no doubt.
But I think he's gonna do a good execution for DC.
We'll debate that when we come back. Hello. Yeah, so where we left off, we were talking about the various cinematic universes. And I want to go back to Marvel, Dave, because gods, that's there's so much to talk about, but for good and for bad. Because, like you said, like going up to Endgame, they had the plan. It was a good plan. And then they executed the plan. No doubt. Infinity War and Endgame were, even if you don't want to call them masterpieces, which I think is fair, they were spectacular. Like they delivered, they were momentous, they felt impactful. And now, not so much. Like I've seen so many people say, like, I'm not excited for Avengers Doomsday. And like that's shocking to me because before it was, oh, here comes the next Avengers movie. It's like we're right there, and now it's just like, yeah, okay. So obviously the failure with that was Phase 4,
Right.
The aftermath of Endgame. And yes, I know No Way Home was in there. That was a very unique circumstance, as we all know. In fact, at the time of recording, they just dropped a new trailer for Brand New Day, which I'm curious about, but I think they're going to put way too much into it. That last trailer was so packed with stuff. I'm like, how are you going to do all of this in one showcase? I'm like, I don't think they're going to have enough time. But did they just get cocky? Did they just get like, oh, we can do no wrong? Thor: Love and Thunder. Did they just? I want to know where it went off the rails. Did they just? Because it can't. The
mouse got ambitious.
The mouse got ambitious. I like that because usually you think about the top of the pyramid, which is Kevin Feige, but he can't be to blame for all this because he's not handling everything.
Right.
You know, like I would not blame him for Thor: Love and Thunder. Actually, I take that back. I do blame him for Thor: Love and Thunder. He should have known to rein in Taika Waititi. But you see everything that's been going on, and like, how did you fail so hard? And even the ones that I feel that were good, like I liked Fantastic Four First Steps. I really liked that. But it was good because it was about a different part of the MCU and then would tie into that. But I didn't go see Thunderbolts because I had no interest, especially with how it was definitely not the Thunderbolts. And like, oh, they're the new Avengers, spoilers. Like, no. God, no. Like, that was terrible. But a lot of people liked it because they liked the story. I'm like, okay, good for you. But even with Doomsday and Secret Wars, they run into the same problem. What's after?
Yes.
So,
and I think Secret Wars is going to do a soft reboot.
I agree. Because the rumor is that then the MCU will focus on the X-Men and certain other characters. So, which would be a bold move, depending on how they pull it off. There's also rumors that Sadie Sink is an X-Man in Spider-Man Brand New Day, possibly Jean Grey. So,
yeah,
I don't buy that just because of how they portray things in the trailer, but you never know. And that would be a weird way to introduce Jean Grey. Also, Cyclops and Jean Grey forever. But I saw see that? He's clearly a Wolverine Jean fan, to which I say to you.
You have failed this city!
No, you're not?
No.
Okay, thank God. I've never understood Wolverine and Jean Grey. I just I get it in certain ways, but Cyclops forever. But it's not that I want to. Even with the bad movies like Quantumania. See there, okay, I got him on that
but
one.
That was good. There's some movies that are just supposed to be goofy.
But there's a difference between goofy and actual fun. Like I'll give you an interesting example. Look at Wayne's World. That movie is so goofy, but you can't help but be enthralled by it. Ant-Man Quantumania was trying to be funny all the time, even though they had freaking Kang as the villain. Yeah. And then they're like, hey, by the way, Ant-Man just totally KO'd Kang on his own. Like, no. That's your next big villain arc? He lost a freaking Ant-Man? Completely. We'll talk about aura. Lost all aura right there. And obviously the thing with Jonathan Majors was out of their control. But even before then, they were already fumbling with the multiverse line. I did not like Multiverse of Madness.
I like that one.
I thought it was mid at best. They went to 2 different multiverses. And the whole focal point of, are you happy, Steven? Drove me crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then there were certain things with Scarlet Witch I didn't like. But that was another movie that had so many re-edits and reshoots and recuts. So that was obviously not gonna turn out the way they probably hoped. But I go into every movie, whether it's DC or Marvel, with the I have no expectations. I try to only look lightly at the review scores because I've liked movies that critics and others haven't liked, and I will defend them to the day I die because I like them. It is my viewing, my opinion.
And that's fair. That's a perfectly valid point.
Thank you. So even though I ride you for some of your opinions, he liked the Whedon cut. I will not internally bash you, maybe just lightly.
You have failed me for the last time.
Whatever. I'm going to take away those buttons. But
buttons right here.
The Whedon cut had the jokes.
No.
And the Whedon cut had the faint stings of the classic Superman movie song and the classic Batman song. And you're just wrong.
No, you're the one who's wrong. You're the one. You are objectively wrong. The Whedon cut had, hey, my son told me you're the thirstiest reporter he's ever met. Hungriest. I was like, ew. Anyway, but going back to Marvel. So I want them to succeed. Don't get me wrong. There's very few movies I am not that fan. It's like, oh, I hate that movie. Don't want to see. Like, I'm not interested in the Supergirl movie, but I don't want it to fail because I know that that'll fall on the actress, and that's just wrong. That's not her fault. And with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, I don't know if it's going to do the numbers that Endgame did. Let's just say Endgame did because of the lack of hype in certain ways. I don't like that Robert Downey Jr. is back as Doctor Doom. That felt like a panic play.
It may have been a panic play, but according to everything I read about it, he's a different character.
Oh yeah, and I have no doubt about that. But like they're going for the shock value. Like Doom will reveal his face, and it was Iron Man. It was Iron Man the whole time, and then they're like, oh, shock factor. It's like, but that's a different character.
Right.
It'd be different if it was, Iron Man as a villain, like Superior Iron Man or one of the other dark versions of him. But no, it's like, we're just going to put Downey Jr. as the role of Doom and have people shocked to his face. But canonically, you wouldn't see his face because Doom is behind the mask the whole time. That's the whole point. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play it. It does make me worried. But still, when you look at especially phase 1 to phase 3, like the overall quality, like there's like one bad movie technically, and even then it's debatable. Most people say it's Incredible Hulk. I liked it. I liked Incredible. I thought Ed Norton was a good Hulk, but like that in terms of movie adaptations, overall, I would honestly give the edge to Marvel.
Yeah,
because MCU, even with the down parts. You got the X-Men films, and which when they were great, they were amazing. Like first two of the original trilogy, First Class, Days of Future Past. I like Apocalypse. I did. I know I'm one of the few, but I liked Apocalypse. I don't know how you failed the Phoenix Saga twice. But again, like that's the thing. Like there's always going to be the duds, but then you look at the bright spots. Whereas the DC universe, as great as they are, they got Batman. They got Batman for the majority. Then with the Snyderverse, you have. I liked Man of Steel. Wonder Woman is the universal. Everyone loved Wonder Woman. Aquaman was the billion seller. Joker got Oscars. Like, who would have thought? Joker got $1 billion and Oscars. But then, like, after that, then, of course, the first two Superman Donner films. But then after that, it gets a bit tricky. Whereas with Marvel, you look at, the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Yes, trilogy. 3 was still pretty good. You look at the X-Men films, you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's all you need.
Right.
And then that doesn't include, say, like Blade. The first 2 Blade movies are really good, and others. So,
like Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool. Yeah, Deadpool 1 and 3. I was not the biggest fan of 2. Like I felt like they were spinning their wheels on that one. But Deadpool and Wolverine had me laughing so much. It was a beautiful thing. Madonna, everybody. He is risen. So, but like there you go. Like Marvel has just that much of an edge. But then we look at the TV properties, it's DC all the way.
Right.
Like they have, especially when you look at the MCU TV adaptations, they're like not even close to the quality of what DC has had. So in movies, Marvel gets the edge. TV, DC gets the edge. And we could just easily talk about this forever. We might have to do a second episode.
So
just
it's
to
kind
do
of
that.
a tie.
It's kind of, I like that, kind of a tie, but we can break that down a little bit more as we go into our recap after the break. And we're back because I'm Batman. No, actually, I'm Todd Black. It says it right here. Weird Al hair. Really? I did not read that before. That is wow. Is this gonna be a recurring bit? Okay. I see where this is going. Okay. Yeah.
3 breaks. You have to watch.
I didn't look before because I was focused on doing my job. Wow. Yes, I've been called Weird Al Yankovic plenty of times over the years, and I do not mind because I am in fact white and nerdy. So we're now in our final segment for today's show, and honestly, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 because we've only lightly touched on certain things like the Arrowverse. We barely touched on the Marvel TV stuff, especially with the new series like Daredevil Born Again, which I definitely have thoughts on, and I know a lot of you do too. So we're probably going to do a part 2 here. And I didn't get to talk about the video games. I love Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, but I also know a lot of people loved the Marvel Spider-Man games by Insomniac. And then there's the Lego titles and everything. So we'll just do a light recap here and then go into part 2 next week. So, Dave, where do you think this debate will ever be settled?
No. It'll never, ever be settled because comics is an ever-changing genre. And things evolve, they change. One of my favorite writers is Peter David, who wrote Incredible Hulk, he created Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, yeah. Miguel O'Hara.
And he wrote several Star Trek characters. And one of the failings of Spider-Man now is that they refuse to let him grow. And Peter David said once that these characters aren't supposed to be staying on a shelf somewhere and you take them down when you're ready to play with them again. They're supposed to grow. They're supposed to evolve. They're supposed to change. And that's what the entire genre does. Is it's supposed to, with new writers, with new people coming in, with new editors, things change. Sometimes not always for the best.
Nope.
But not always, bad either.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree with that. Have you ever heard the show Death Battle?
yes.
Okay. One of their most popular episodes were Goku versus Superman. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the 3rd episode, they talked about something that I had never really thought about, even though I grew up in this era. They noted that at the end of the episode, the problem with Goku versus Superman as a debate is that it's not so much a debate of characters as ideologies. Because especially in 90s America, where these two things were like clashing with one another, superheroes had an unyielding status quo. Batman, Superman, Captain America, Spawn, all of them, they rarely changed who they were. Their fights would be different. Their methods might change in a certain capacity because they're superpowers, but it would rarely ever change who they are as a character. But then you had anime come in, and it always is evolving. Even someone like Goku, who is incredibly stagnant as a character, everything is still evolving around him and he's still growing. And so it was thought of, do you like the status quo characters who never change like Superman, or do you want something fresh and exciting like anime? And so that's another part of the Marvel versus DC debate is who takes these characters to exciting directions the most times. And that's a toss-up as well, because you can look at some great stuff that, like we hadn't mentioned before, like the Spider-Verse films. Like the first 2 that have come out have been masterful. I mean, they put Miles Morales on an even bigger pedestal than he already was through just the comics alone. And everyone is excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Do not overwork your animators, Sony. Do you hear me? I know what you did in the second film. How dare? All right, no joke. Look it up. But and then you look at what Steven DeKnight did with the Netflix Daredevil series, which it took the character, but it just changed it in just the right way to where you understood his journey. He was constantly growing and evolving. Matt Murdock was never stagnant in that series. No. And then they brought him back for the the Disney Plus series, Born Again, where you still see some of the Netflix stuff, but it's not as pronounced. It's very Disney-fied, and I don't like, including with the status quo changes. They killed Foggy. How dare you? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Well, burn in hell. I know a lot of people were protesting the moment they realized that Foggy's totally dead. And then they got rid of Karen for the first season, pretty much. I'm like, no, did you not watch Netflix? Like, and that's the problem with the debate, is that there are entities like Warner Brothers and Disney who are like, no, we need to maintain the status quo. We need to do this, and we need to make money. And then you have the other series, like, say, the Arrowverse or the Spider-Verse films and certain other, or even the games like with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, where it's like, we want to do something special that pays homage, but we're telling our own story.
Your own story.
And like that speaks to me. And so, like, when you see... And another debate we're going to do down the line as a small teaser is we're going to do the topic of comic accuracy. Of like, why, because especially as a Snyder fan, I hear it all the time. Zack Snyder doesn't read comics because he did this, and this, and the characters. But then you see James Gunn do the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, James Gunn is amazing for doing this. I'm like, Nani?
Yeah.
It's annoying. And I don't even have to apply that to his DC run. I could look at Guardians of the Galaxy, where like pretty much none of the characters outside of maybe Rocket and Groot are accurate to their comic forms, and that was his choice. And that's the thing, is that this topic will never end because we know there's more stuff coming. Even if the Marvel Cinematic Universe was to end in the next few years, it won't. But even if it were, they'd wait a few years and then they'd try again, just like what DC did between Snyder to Gunn. And I actually got to meet Katie Lotz recently, who is a White Canary, Sarah Lance in the Arrowverse. And I straight up told her I don't think that there's ever going to be another Arrowverse of this level that we had, which we'll talk more about in part 2 next week. And she's like, yeah, and that's sad because with all the multiverse things going on, they should. I'm like, yes! No, have the right team, the right writers, the right characters, and the right support, and you can have things go forever while never getting stagnant or stale.
Right.
And that's why, in truth, well, despite all the tally marks we've been doing so far, it's really a tie about who's winning because it changes all the time. Before the MCU, you'd give the edge to DC because they had Donner and they had Michael Keaton and some of the other things. Whereas Marvel basically had the X-Men and Blade.
Yes.
Like, that's not really a comparison. And then you say, oh, but with the animated series, like, they had X-Men and Spider-Man. We had Batman and Superman and Justice League and Batman Beyond and everything. It adds up. But then things have changed. And I know there's been a lot of popular Spider-Man cartoons post-90s and everything. And Batman's had some unique ones, but he's also had some duds, like Beware the Batman, which lasted less than a season. They tried too hard. They tried too hard to be. That was one that they were trying to be different.
Yes.
And it backfired on them.
It failed.
Versus, say, like Brave and the Bold, where they were embracing the Silver Age, and it actually worked in their favor because they were having so much fun with it. Mayhem of the Music Meister.
Yes.
Yes. The dastardly despicable. I'll sing it next time. But Neil Patrick Harris, God bless. But like
National treasure.
National treasure. So the debate will continue, including into next week, ladies and gentlemen. But that's the fun of this. And I want to make it clear that as much as I rag on Dave for, liking the Whedon cut and saying like, oh, this wasn't so bad or this other thing wasn't so bad, that's part of the fun of the debate because you never know what people are going to say. We did not discuss what we liked and did not like before this podcast, and we will rarely ever do that because it makes it more fun and reactory when I get to, hear a terrible take and get to say,
You have failed me for the last time.
Yeah, pretty much. So I enjoy that, and I know that there's some things that I like that he did not, and going forward as we hopefully get to break down Spider-Man Brand New Day or Supergirl or Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars and whatever else comes out next, I look forward to continuing this debate to say, where are we in the next few months? And then that goes, of course, for the comics as well, because Marvel's going to have to respond to the Absolute line, especially now that their Ultimate run is done. Are they going to do it? Currently, the Avengers Armageddon event has just started, and I look forward to seeing where that goes. There's so much to talk about, and that's the fun of this podcast, is that there will always be something else to talk about. And just remember, we're accurate when we're talking about this, comically accurate.
Oh, God.